Rain lashed the deck like a million hissing vipers, and the narrow-beamed Pentoshi cog groaned beneath the weight of every wave. Illyrio Mopatus had spared no expense on the hull or the sails. Silk-reinforced canvas, oak ribs from the summer isles, pitch so thick that salt water beaded and slid away like oil on marble, yet he could not still the sea. On nights such as this, the narrow sea remembered its ancient name. The Bravosi call it the Widowmaker, and sailors of Tyrosh mutter of whirlpools that swallow fleets whole. Some men aboard would have welcomed that fate over the unnatural cries they had heard a few breaths earlier, down in the dark hold. They whispered of demons, of krakens, of the storm god's children come to drag them screaming into the depths. But Sir Willem Darry, blanket-swaddled, pallid, one hand always trembling at the memory of fever and the other always steady on his sheathed sword, knew better. Down below, 3 shadows fought for space in a cedar-lined crate scarcely large enough for one. The first was bronze green, her wings tipped in umber, all sinewy neck and rolling shoulders. The second seeped sable smoke, darker than the belly of the storm outside, scales like shards of midnight. The third shimmered pale gold, the hue of summer wheat lit by sunset. They were scarcely the length of a man's forearm, yet their eyes burned hotter than a maester's forge, and their claws drew sparks from wood. Their hiss was the hiss of a fire about to catch. And in the single lantern's breathless glow, Daenerys Targaryen, 9 years old, silver-blonde hair braided wet to her skull, knelt between them, crooning Valyrian lullabies that Aerys' wet nurse used to sing between sobs on Dragonstone. The rebellion raged half a world away, yet its thunder followed them even here. On Dragonstone, they had spoken of Robert's victories in hushed dread. The trident running red with Targaryen blood, Rhaegar's rubies scattered like seeds. They had told tales of Brandon Stark strangled by the Mad King's own devices, of Ricard turned to ash in golden armor. Yet Dany's mind held only one image, her brother Viserys, eyes burning with a fury too vast for his thin frame, screaming that the usurper would pay 10,000-fold. He had not boarded the cog. He rode west on a swifter galley accompanied by Lyseni Sellswords, convinced that old allies of House Targaryen would swell his host the moment they glimpsed the 3 dragons. Viserys forgot that a sword too soon brandished often slides itself into the belly of its bearer. Illyrio had tried to remind him, softly with honeyed words, but honey slides off dragonglass. So Viserys sought Sellsword banners, and Daenerys sailed alone save for Ser Willem and the fragile eggs that had cracked 1 fortnight earlier. Illyrio claimed it was an omen. When a storm rips the world open, he had purred, stroking his perfumed beard, new fires crawl out. In the dark of the hold, Dany prayed to every god of every creed that her dragons would burn bright enough to blind those who wished her dead. Yet when she laid her ear to the crate, she heard their hearts beating in frantic harmony with her own, fearful, wondering, waiting. Flesh or scale, it mattered little. All children tasted terror first. The ship made bravos by dawn 2 days later. Clouds still bruised the sky, but in the silver wash of sunrise the Titan's iron face glowered less like a devil and more like a stern father. His horn bellowed, shockingly deep, making hatchlings and sailors alike screech in alarm. Dany pressed her dragons to her chest beneath a cloak of worn ermine, heart thudding so hard she thought the creatures might answer it. Ser Willem towered beside her, gaunt but proud, a whetstone smile on his lips for every dockhand who dared stare too long at the bundle he shielded. They docked at a discreet pier flanked by warehouses so ancient their walls wept brine, and a dozen sworn swords marked with the seahorse of House Celtigar stood ready. Illyrio's gold again. House Celtigar had bent the knee to Baratheon, but coin bends knees twice. Bravos, with its 1,000 aisles and twisted bridges, seemed carved from a dream. Sweet olive smoke drifted from bakeries warming dawn loaves. Swan boats drifted down the purple harbor. Fishwives in violet silks haggled in the Sea Lord's square. Yet every corner of that beauty hid knives. Ser Willem kept Dany cloaked, and the dragons too, lest a faceless man decide a pink girl's skull was worth more than the Sea Lord's crown. Illyrio had rented a shuttered manse of marble the color of old milk. They moved through tunnels lit by green candles, stabling the hatchlings in a subterranean chamber whose walls dripped with condensation but were lined with furnaces hot enough to scald skin. Dragonfire drew strength from flame. Dany watched in silent awe as coal embers danced across emerald scales and smoke-black wings. In the manse's atrium a week later, Illyrio unfolded fresh news parchments like a conjurer revealing knives. Storm's End besieged a second time, this one led by Mace Tyrell. Stannis Baratheon starving behind walls thicker than pride. Jon Connington stripped of titles, Crown Prince Viserys. Here Illyrio paused, seeking Dany's eyes, rumored slain during a skirmish on the King's Road. The parchment stank of wax and rot. Willem Darry swore, spittle flecking his beard, but Dany's lips pressed white. Within her sleeves, baby Drogon writhed, teeth nipping at her wrist. Illyrio's voice softened. We must move swifter than rumor. A fleet of Lyseni traders sails for the Stepstones at week's turn. You will slip among them, cross Blackwater Bay under dawn fog, and land near Duskendale. There, riders loyal to your cause, yes, child, some still breathe, shall spirit you north, through the Kingswood, to the loyal lords of Derry and Mutun. From there, King's Landing, Ser Willem rasped, unconvinced. Let the usurper's walls tremble first. A dragon cannot overturn a keep in one breath, not while so small. Illyrio's rings clicked as he steepled his fingers. Yet men quail at omens they do not understand. Show them fire, just enough, and their knees will bend before their tongues form treason. Dany touched the satchel at her hip. 3 quills, 3 inkwells, 3 scraps of vellum each inscribed with a single name in Valyrian glyphs. It was the first rite a Targaryen mother performed, naming her children in ink before naming them in flame. The parchment would burn later, ashes folded into the hatchling's next feast. She spoke their names now beneath her breath, tasting each syllable as if it were spice dissolving on her tongue. Rhaegal, Viserion, Drogon. Every syllable was a promise. One to Viserys, who might be dead, one to Rhaegar, who certainly was, and one to the father she scarcely remembered save for the scent of smoke in his robes and the way his laugh cracked when madness opened its jaws. The day they departed Braavos, Willem Darry dressed Dany in rough spun, dyed the dull brown of river mud. They cut her hair short, ragged, so she looked more street urchin than princess. She swallowed tears as silver locks powdered the floor. Each strand glimmered like falling stars. Yet when she gazed into the glass afterward, the face staring back seemed sharper, hungrier, as if forged in the braziers that warmed her dragons. And the hatchlings, they had grown. Their wings now spanned from elbow to fingertips. Talons pricked leather. They hissed louder than wind between sails. Ser Willem divided them. 1 dragon for each of the 3 wagons hidden in the Lyseni convoy. Dany would ride in the central wagon accompanied by Drogon, the Black. Rhaegal and Viserion would flank her under layers of cured hides soaked in Myrish ash. Smoke drifted from the seams. Sailors muttered of bad cargo, but Illyrio's coin bought silence there too. The crossing took 4 days. No storms rose to bar their passage. Instead, the sea lay eerily calm, as if it feared to wake the beasts in its belly. Dany spent the nights curled around Drogon, feeding him scraps of smoked eel while whispering Valyrian epics of Balerion and Vhagar. Every morning he woke larger, eyes sparking with cunning. By the time the convoy anchored off Maidenpool under a pale new moon, Drogon's breath could melt iron nails. Ser Willem, stoic though he was, watched that breath with equal parts awe and dread. They landed at Duskendale in deepest fog. It rolled off the water in folds thick as wool, muffling every creak of rope and splash of oars. The dock's lamplight sank into silver nothingness. Men cursed softly, but Dany felt only exhilaration. Westeros, her birthright, beneath her feet. She knelt, pressed a palm to damp planks, and swore a silent vow that no Targaryen would ever again be driven from these shores, living or unborn. Then she rose and followed Willem into the smothering night. The forest road to the Kingswood was a tunnel of silence broken only by wolf cries. Rhaegal traveled in the wagon behind them, Viserion in the wagon ahead, each guarded by sellswords who refused to speak Daenerys' name. But names travel faster than wind. By the time they neared Fellwood, Riders in dark cloaks had already begun shadowing the convoy at a distance, neither attacking nor greeting. Ser Willem ordered a halt. His men formed a ring of steel around the wagons. Long minutes passed while the riders circled like carrion crows. Then a single figure rode forward, unhelmed. A woman with copper hair shorn like a boy's, a long sword strapped across her back. She reined in, lifted a gloved hand, and spoke one word: "Stormborn." Dany stepped from the wagon before Willem could stop her. She pulled back her hood. Moonlight silvered her cropped hair. Drogon balanced on her shoulder, wings mantling, fireflies of smoke drifting from his nostrils. The woman swung down into the mud and knelt, fist to chest. Behind her, every rider followed suit, cloaks parting to reveal the red dragon of House Targaryen painted across black armor. But the dragons bore a purple slash across their wings, half-remembered heraldry of the Darkland line, the lords who once defied the Iron Throne and paid in blood. "My name is Brienne Darklyn," the copper-haired woman said, voice trembling like a harp string. "My great-uncle died defending their majesties in the Defiance, but my father taught me treason dies only when its cause does. I pledge my sword and those of my kin to the queen who was promised by flame." Willem's eyes glittered. He gave the order to ride anew, but not towards Mutun lands. Brienne took the point, guiding them along forgotten smugglers' tracks that wormed through marsh and bracken. Every mile, new riders joined. Swan-helmed men of House Swan, pikemen wearing the rising sun of House Dane, grim sellswords whose only badge was a purse slit open and emptied at their belt, a sign they had accepted Targaryen gold once and never been paid. They called themselves the Bitter Legion. Their oaths meant little, but their spears numbered many. 3 days into the Kingswood, Dany's company swelled to 200. Ser Willem argued for caution, but Brienne insisted numbers mattered now. "Small fires invite boots to stomp them," she said. "Let the whole forest burn, and even kings flee." On the 4th day, signal horns wailed ahead, scouts racing back to warn of Baratheon outriders. Robert had sent hunting parties south, restless after Storm's End's stubborn walls refused to fall. Rumor claimed he hunted wild boar to slake his temper. Now his hunters had found prey far rarer. Under gray dawn, the two forces met in a glade ringed by broken columns marking some ghost of Valyrian times. Robert's bannermen numbered 50 at most, but they were knights hardened by the trident and they rode beneath the crowned stag. They expected a rabble and found banners from half the 7 kingdoms lifting dragons on red. Still, they charged. Such is the way of men who measure victory by weight of steel alone. They never knew the true balance of the scales. Dany stood on a fallen pillar, cloak thrown wide. Drogon spiraled above her, black wings carving the sky. Rhaegal and Viserion burst from their wagons in twin explosions of canvas and shattered wood, answering Drogon's shriek with cries that turned horseflesh to panic. Green flame geysered from Rhaegal's maw, sweeping across damp grass in a roar so loud it drowned mortal screams. Viserion's white-hot breath followed, searing a knight's lance in mid-thrust, melting steel into droplets of liquid red. Men scattered. Some flung themselves face first into mud. Others fled into trees, never thinking to look back. Those few still upright dropped swords that hissed where they landed, red-hot. Armored destriers bolted, riderless, veins of smoke trailing from scorched manes. Through it all, Daenerys watched, heart hammering, tears blurring her sight. Not of sorrow, but of exhilaration. The dragons were small, yet in that glade they were leviathans. In their roars she heard the collapse of Harrenhal, the shrieks of Field of Fire, the thunder of centuries returning. When silence fell, Brienne Darklyn knelt once more. Every soldier present followed. They did not say Queen Daenerys. The woods themselves whispered it. That night the company camped beneath dying oaks. Rhaegal and Drogon curled around Daenerys as she sat near the fire. Viserion prowled the perimeter, eyes like twin moons. Ser Willem had wanted guards between the dragons and the men, but Brienne said only, "If they would betray her, steel won't stop them." So the guards watched from afar, trembling. Daenerys fed her dragons morsels of charred boar, irony too sweet to ignore, and considered Illyrio's maps by flickering torchlight. North lay the Trident, blood-stained again with skirmishes between loyalists and rebels. South lay Storm's End and Highgarden's siege lines. East, across the Blackwater, the walls of King's Landing glittered like hidden knives beneath the moon, where the Mad King, her father, still brooded on pyromancer's jars and refused to open the gates even to allies. What allies would approach? Viserys' body might already lie rotting outside those walls. Another nameless corpse burned in lime pits. She lifted her stare to the dragons. They were still infants, but every hour they grew, and every hour the realm bled. She felt time compress upon her shoulders like wet wool, and somewhere in that wet wool whispered a voice she had never heard yet always known. The woman in Song of Ice and Fire, the one the Red Priests called Azor Ahai, returned. Light bringer is forged in shadow, the prophecy said. Daenerys wondered if she already carried her sword, 3 swords, beating and breathing in the night. The Bitter Legion's messengers returned next dawn with dire news. Lord Tywin Lannister had at last raised his banners and ridden for King's Landing, though none could say whether to aid or betray King Aerys. Worst, Jon Arryn and the remainder of Robert's host marched for the capital behind him. Victory or carnage would decide the realm within a fortnight. Ser Willem argued they should make for Dragonstone, gather strength, grow the dragons until they could harden leather into burning scale. Brienne counseled striking at Storm's End to rally the Stormlanders tired of siege and hunger. But Daenerys shook her head. If her father burned the city before her dragons gained their full fury, there would be no realm left to claim. She remembered Viserys raving of wildfire caches beneath every cobblestone, of pyromancers sworn to ignite them the instant the gates fell. That night she dreamed of King's Landing aflame. Green fire-licking sky, towers melting like candles, bells screaming. She flew above it on wings of night, Drogon beneath her, regal and Viserion flanking. Somewhere below, a single red sword pierced smoke, glowing with sorrow. When she woke, her pillow was damp with sweat, and Drogon sat upon her chest, eyes fixed unblinking on hers as though sharing the same nightmare. On the 9th morning since Duskendale, the company broke camp and rode east, not north or south. They would thread the Kingswood, skirt the Gold Road, and emerge on the banks of the Blackwater Rush within sight of Aegon's Hill. The Bitter Legion carried torches made of river reeds soaked in pitch. Brienne called it lighting the way for ghosts. They moved mostly at night, when dragonfire shone brightest. Along the winding forest paths, poachers and small folk alike glimpsed the company and spread tales faster than crows. Of a silver child riding shadows, of scaled beasts breathing starlight. In every hamlet, people gathered to watch silent as stones. Some fell to their knees, others reached out trembling hands. No one dared speak against her openly. Robert's promise coin weighed less than a dragon's breath on the back of one's neck. By the time the Blackwater glinted through thinning trees, Daenerys led 500 souls. Some were hedge knights, others freedmen who had once worked royal lands and still wore the purple stains of grape in their fingernails. Many had lost sons at the Trident, brothers at Summerhall's ruins, fathers to the Dragon Pit riot long before she was born. Yet when she addressed them, on a rise crowned with heath blooming late, they cheered with a passion that shook dew from the leaves. "Stormborn," Brienne murmured, voice thick. "No queen ever rode to war so young." "Nor with foes on every side," Willem countered, though pride crept into his tone despite himself. The Blackwater smelled of tide and distant smoke. Dany walked to its edge, held out her arm. Drogon alighted atop her wrist, heavier than yesterday, wings beating slow, deliberate. Regal banked overhead, green blur against gray sky. Viserion skimmed the water, talons scoring ripples that steamed. Across the river, the great walls reared, lit by torch and brazier. On the gatehouse flew Baratheon's crowned stag. Stannis had broken the siege of Storm's End at last and ridden hard. Robert's colors now threatened the very gates Aerys still barred. Dany drew a breath. Cold bit her lungs, but she would not shake. "Ser Willem," she said, "ready the boats." Willem opened his mouth to protest. She raised a hand. My father will not burn this city. If he tries, his flames will meet mine, and fire knows its master." At her feet, Drogon hissed approval. Somewhere deep beside the river, drums began to beat. Perhaps Baratheon drums, perhaps the pulsing heart of the city itself. The sky darkened, though no cloud marred it, as if the sun had stepped aside to watch. Daenerys Targaryen, Stormborn, last daughter of Valyria, stepped into the waiting skiff. She felt Drogon anchor his claws upon the prow while Rhaegal swooped to rest upon the stern. Viserion circled overhead, pale comet's tail trailing mist. The bitter legion lined the bank in silence. Many crossed hearts, others bowed heads. Brienne's blade flashed as she saluted. Willem Darry stood stiff, face unreadable. As the skiff pushed off, Dany's gaze locked upon the city of her ancestors. Somewhere within those walls, her father muttered to shadows, trusting no soul. Somewhere, Jaime Lannister's golden armor gleamed at the door of the throne room. Somewhere, barrels of wildfire waited beneath sept and square. But overhead, 3 dragons answered only to her blood. The skiff cut the blackwater, silver wake slicing reflection. Wind tugged broken strands of Dany's hair across her lips. She tasted salt, smelled smoke. Every sense opened like a wound, and through that wound poured the weight of centuries yearning to be born anew. She raised one hand, and Drogon spread his wings, and in that heartbeat a roar split the river valley. Deeper than thunder, older than sin. Men upon the walls stumbled, clutching helms. Bowmen's quivers spilled arrow. WS clattering to cobblestone. From the Red Keep's tallest tower, a white raven burst into flight, shrieking. On the far bank, the bitter legion fell to their knees. The last dragon queen crossed the water on wings of fire, bearing in her arms the end of rebellion and the dawn of kingdoms yet unimagined. And the wind itself seemed to whisper, Dracarys. Wind hammered across the river, slapping the skiff's canvas awning so hard the ribs shuddered like thin bones. Oarsmen bent their backs in silence, knowing any word above the water's hush might drift to sentries on the walls. Daenerys felt each pull in the quiver of the hull. Felt, too, Drogon's claws tighten where he perched. He watched the looming battlements with a butcher's patience, black wings half unfurled, head swinging left, right, as if measuring every murder hole and crenel. Rhaegal crouched in the stern beside the tiller, giving a low growl whenever the boat listed. Viserion circled overhead in widening gyres, shape nearly lost against the bruised sky until the moon struck his pale belly and turned him into a shard of moving silver. The Blackwater narrowed where the river gate jutted into the tide. Iron portcullis, twin towers, a plank-drawn bridge beyond. The watchers atop the walls leaned far over parapets, torches bobbing like fireflies. A trumpet sounded. One blast, an order to heave open the outer grille. The skiff drifted nearer, oars lifted and dripped. Daenerys could smell pitch burning in braziers, the sharp tang of rust on chains that had not been oiled since rebellion swallowed coin. Over everything lay the sweeter reek of lantern oil and something acrid beneath, wildfire fumes seeping through old mortar. Ser Willem stood at her shoulder in borrowed mail painted muddy brown. Beneath the nasal of his helm, his voice rasped. If the king's guard at the gate does not recognize the sigil, we may yet. They do not need banners, Dany murmured. She raised her left hand. In the clawed glove rested a fat pouch of pigeon's blood garnets. Dragon's tears, Illyrio had called them, mined in the dry hills north of Norvos. She tugged the drawstring and cast the stones wide across the dark. They splashed like hot wax, sinking out of sight. A meaningless gesture to common eyes, but rumor would grow around it by dawn. The Girl Queen had scattered rubies as her brother's memory, and the river had swallowed them the way Robert's hammer had Rhaegar's life. Symbols weighed more than steel. The gate creaked, iron teeth rising. One torch silhouetted a mailed figure upon the inner bridge. Gold glimmered faintly where cloak met helm. A lion rampant worked in thread of gold. Daenerys tasted bitterness. House Lannister's claws sank everywhere. She raised her chin. We come in the name of Daenerys of House Targaryen, Ser Willem called, voice magnified by the stone throat of the passage. Blood of the dragon, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, with 3 living dragons at her command. Open these gates in peace and you will be spared fire. Silence. Even the river seemed to hush, current holding its breath. Then a sharper creak. The inner portcullis rattled upward. The mailed figure turned. Daenerys glimpsed a cloak's golden fringe vanish within torch shadow. Her skiff moved forward, prow kissing slime-slick stone. Willem sprang to the quay first, hand out. Dany let him lift her, though she did not need the aid. Drogon left her shoulder in a cracking burst of wings and clung instead to the arch of the gate, talons sinking into mortar. Flakes rained down like dying stars. Within the tunnel, torchlight caught damp walls crusted jade where wildfire seeped from unseen cracks. Workers had tried to seal fissures with lead. The metal oozed and bubbled, green flames dancing faintly inside. Regal spat at one such seam, as though insulted by the false fire. Sparks fizzed, hissed, and guttered. The inner yard spread beyond, a long rectangle between barbican and main wall. Barrels lay stacked beside siege stones, forgotten in haste. Rank hay, 2 men in gold cloaks knelt in twin rows. The foremost removed his helm, revealing hair the color of beaten brass. His eyes, hazel and sunken, never left Daenerys, though he bowed low enough to brush cobbles. "Your Grace," he said, voice rasping like a file against chainmail. "I am Captain Simon Hollard." Lord Varys's birds whispered that dragons hatched, and the city shook with fear. Some of us feared, some of us hoped. "We have waited." "Waited for what?" Dany asked, stepping onto dry stone. Drogon hopped down beside her, folding wings, serpentine neck weaving to and fro. The captain's men flinched. "For a better fire than the one he threatens," Hollard said, glancing towards Aegon's hill. "If the Mad King lights his pyres, none inside these walls will live. We would rather kneel to new flame than drown in old." A clang behind. The rest of her company approached, boots and hoofbeats echoing. Brienne Darklyn rode at the column's head, helm under arm. Her smile when she saw the gold cloaks kneeling was fierce and small. She swung down, strode to Dany's side, and rested her gauntlet lightly upon the girl's shoulder. "Tell your men the Dragon Queen accepts," Brienne called. "But you serve truth, not treason. Any who betray oaths will feed the hatchlings in pieces." Simon Hollard blinked, uncertain if jest. Dany sensed his quivering relief, tasted it like copper in the air. "The Queen's justice," he murmured. "It will be done." He signaled. The kneeling men rose, sheathed blades they had only half drawn. Regal slithered forward, wings mantling. He sniffed Hollard's face, then gave a curt chuff and ducked back to Daenerys. Approval, perhaps, or disdain too small to note. They made for the Dragon Gate without trumpet or drum. Streets lay deserted in the witchlight hour before dawn. Shuttered stalls creaked. A stray dog whined and fled as Drogon hissed. Smoke stains marred half the doorways where torch-wielding mobs had rioted a fortnight past, clamoring for bread and news of victory. Hollard spoke as they walked, keeping respectful distance from the dragons. "The King's Guard rots from within," he said. "Ser Jaime commands the Red Keep's inner garrison, while Lord Carlton Chelsted rules pyromancers below. But rumor says Jaime follows only his own conscience. The king locks the throne room, hoards wildfire with the Alchemist's Guild, and mutters about burning traitors, small folk, the world." "Where is my mother?" Dany asked. She scarcely remembered Riella's face, only the feel of calloused fingers brushing her cheek, the smell of lavender. Willem answered quietly. "The Queen died on Dragonstone birthing you, my lady. The maesters could not," he faltered. Every time he spoke of Riella, he seemed to lose a year of life. Dany felt guilt wrapped tight around her ribs, yet forced her gaze forward. Near Flea Bottom, the smell changed. Dung, stale urine, slop poured from upper windows. Eyes glimmered in alley mouths. Whispers rippled ahead of them. Dragons, dragons, dragons. A drunk stumbling from a whorehouse fell to knees, babbling prayers to the seven. Regal snorted flame that singed the man's beard. The small folk pressed palms to hearts and vanished behind doors. At Cobbler's Square, the first bells tolled, thin and distant. Dawn smudged the east. Their procession halted where the King's Gate rose. Here marble lions crouched above portcullis wound open. On tower walks, Lannister soldiers in crimson mantles clutched crossbows but loosed none. By torchlight, Dany saw fear in every pale face behind the visors. She passed beneath them and heard men whisper one word: Dracarys. Past the gate, the cobbles climbed steep to Aegon's high hill, broad enough for 5 riders across. Brienne called quiet orders. Bitter Legion flanked left and right, shields high. Rhaegal and Drogon stalked between columns. Viserion alighted atop the square tower of Rhaenys' sept, white wings spreading like dawn against slate sky. When bells from every sept began to clang in earnest, the sound rolled through King's Landing like thunder announcing storm. Small folk boiled from doorways drawn by clamor. First dozens, then hundreds lined the route, barefoot, half-starved, their faces lantern-lit masks of fear and wonder. Some shouted praise in tongues Daenerys did not know. Others sobbed. One old woman reached forward and brushed Rhaegal's tail with gnarled fingers, then fainted. Dany glimpsed mothers hoisting children above shoulders so their eyes could drink dragons before memory faded. They halted at the foot of the Hill of Rhaenys, where a great marble stair climbed to the Red Keep's outer barbican. Above, windows flickered with lamplight. A wind gusted, carrying cries from distant ramparts.
Sir Willem signaled hold.
Brienne drew steel with a ringing scrape. Her crimson cloak snapped behind. At my word, Willem murmured. The gate. Dany lifted Drogon from her shoulder and set him before her on the lowest step. He crouched, tail lashing. Then she shed the rivermud cloak and stood in the fire-black riding leathers Illyrio had commissioned, stitched with tiny red scales across shoulder and breast, the beginning of a draconic armor that might one day cover her whole. In the torchlight, those scales caught orange and bled it to crimson. A collective gasp shivered through the assembled crowd. She spoke, not loudly, but the wind stilled to carry her. I am Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, she said. First of my name, Queen of the Undulls and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lady of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm. I have returned to end the madness that grips this city. I come not for vengeance but for justice. Any who raise steel against me raise it against fire itself. She turned to Brienne. Open the gate. The outer barbican offered little resistance. Gold cloaks loyal to Hollard cranked winches. Portcullis clattered up. Inside, a narrow yard funneled toward the middle keep and Maegor's holdfast. Lannister spearmen ringed the yard behind steel-shod horses, crimson on polished breastplates. Their captain rode forward. Ser Adam Marbrand, mane of copper hair spilling from helm, lion sigil white upon scarlet cloak. Small queen, he called, voice carrying the confident laughter of a man who has never known defeat. Do you bring an army or a menagerie? His gaze flicked to the dragons, not without unease. Dany stood unmoving. Brienne advanced 2 paces, blade angled. Yield, Ser Adam, she said. Stand aside for your rightful liege. My oath is to Lord Tywin, he answered, smiling thinly. And to the hand he will set upon the throne once Robert Baratheon breaks your father's skull. Dany raised her hand. Drogon screamed, sound like tearing metal, and hurled himself at the nearest horse. Green dragonfire. Not yet the deep black of full flame, but a thin cone of white-hot fury burst from his jaws. Horse reared, skin blistering. Rider shrieked, armor glowing red. Rhaegal and Viserion answered from flank and tower. 3 pillars of fire roared into the yard. Men scattered, shields melting to slag that dripped sparks. In the chaos, Brienne signaled, and Bitter Legion surged. Ser Adam spurred forward, swinging a spiked morning star, but Rhaegal swept above, tail smashing helm from head. Marbrand fell, blood painting cobbles. His men broke. Dragons strafed once, twice. The yard filled with burning horses, shattered pikes, screams. Then, abrupt as it began, silence. Smoke drifted, carrying the smell of scorched meat. Of Lannister spearmen, only a handful crawled for the gate. Gold cloaks herded them aside. Brienne faced Dany, lowering sword. "A swift lesson, my queen," she said. "The lions roar loudest from a distance." Dany walked among the fallen. Firelight glazed molten pools where helms had been. Her stomach clenched. She remembered stories of Harrenhal's field of fire, Aegon's laughter when knights burned within steel cages. She felt no laughter in her, only a heavy ache. Yet the path was clear. Drogon fluttered to her shoulder. Scales sang against leather. At Maegor's holdfast, the massive doors of black oak stood barred. High above, the rampart's outline showed motion, white cloak, golden hair. Ser Jaime Lannister leaned over a crenel, unsmiling. Even at distance, his green eyes pierced torchlight. He spoke softly, yet every word reached her. "The king will not open," he said. "Not to dragons, not to daughters." Behind him, lesser shapes. Gold-helmed guards, pyromancers in green robes clasping copper flasks. Dany stepped forward. "Then let him burn by his own hand." Jaime's gaze narrowed. "He will burn everything. You, these people, me. He takes counsel only from ghosts." Brienne whispered, "Queen, give the word. We breach." She gestured to Rhaegal. Dragonfire could melt those doors. But Daenerys looked up at Jaime. "White sword," she called. "Will you stand idle while a madman burns children?" A smile ghosted Jaime's lips. "I have asked myself that each day for a year," he said. "Yet my vows." "Your vows are to protect the innocent," she cut him. "I am 9 years old, yet I come to end bloodshed. Meet me at the throne room doors, or carry ash in your lungs till death." Wind lifted her words toward him. Jaime's knuckles whitened on stone. He turned, vanishing from sight. Ser Willem counseled retreat to plan further. Brienne argued they should shatter the doors before the king drowned the city. Daenerys closed her eyes. Visions flickered. Wildfire erupting in bright green domes. Drogon spread above towers. The small folk screaming. Robert's army breaking upon flames dyed emerald. Another vision. Jaime's sword flashing once, and silence falling like snow. She opened her eyes. "We wait," she said. Ordered camp made in the yard of Maegor's holdfast. Tents, braziers pinned, cook fires kindled from shattered spear hafts. Gold cloaks patrolled parapets. Bitter legions stacked bodies beyond walls for pyre. Small folk gathered at gates watching dragons wheel above. None tried to breach line. Fear balanced hope. Night deepened. The dragons roost on ramparts. Drogon over the main gate, Rhaegal atop Traitor's Walk, Viserion clinging to the Tower of Hand. Flaming braziers painted them living statues, their shadows flickering across reddened stone like prophecies. On the second hour past moonrise, a door slammed within the keep. Torches bobbed. A column of white cloaks descended steps to the yard. Jaime Lannister at their head, helm under arm, golden hair unbound. He approached Daenerys where she sat by the largest brazier, Brienne and Willem flanking. His white armor bore scorch marks. He sank to one knee. "I took an oath," he said. "I break it now to keep a better one. The king commands pyromancers to ignite caches under every sept at break of dawn. He believes the fires will burn rebels and traitors both, so that only dragonseed may spring from ashes. I slew his hand when the man tried to reason with him. I tell you this so you know my hands are already red." A stillness settled. Flames crackled. Daenerys felt her tiny heart hammer hard enough to bruise ribs. "Will you open the doors?" she asked. "Yes. At moonset, I lead my brothers of the Kingsguard to the throne room. Some will fight, some will kneel. I leave Aerys to you, or to your dragons." Brienne growled. "Why should we trust Lannister lips?" "Because I hate wildfire more than dragons," Jaime answered and met Dany's gaze. There, she saw not arrogance but a tiredness beyond years. "And because no one else stands between this city and ashes." Willem consulted maps, whispered fiercely. But Dany had chosen. She rose, drew her dagger. a thin blade of Valyrian steel given by Illyrio, and slashed her palm. Blood welled bright. Drogon lifted his head and hissed. Dany pressed her wound to his snout. "Blood of my blood," she whispered in high Valyrian. Droplets sizzled on scales. Drogon's pupils widened. Rhaegal and Viserion answered with low rumbling. She turned to Jaime. "At moonset, I will come. If you falter, the dragons will burn their way through, and all within will perish." Jaime inclined his head. "Understood." He went. White cloaks followed. The doors of Maegor's holdfast closed behind. Moonset dragged slow across black sky marbled with thin cloud. In the yard, soldiers scraped ash from breastplates, tightened straps, checked arrow flights. Gold cloak officers positioned archers along inner walls. Torches banked low to keep darkness. Above, Drogon prowled back and forth, restless. Daenerys allowed Rhaegal to coil around her shoulders, his weight comforting as a heavy mantle, heat seeping through leather. Viserion settled to her right, wings folded tight. She inhaled the scent of smoke and dragon musk, nostrils flaring. Somewhere beneath them, her father paced the Iron Throne, muttering of betrayal. Brienne stood opposite, one boot upon a paving stone cracked by earlier flame. "If the Lannister lies, we rush," she said. "He will not lie," Dany murmured, but part of her wondered what it would feel like to command dragons to shatter red walls, set their glossed corridors blazing. All these years, the Targaryen words, fire and blood, had been a warning, not a command. Tonight, they could be both. The moon kissed the horizon. Its thin silver sliver vanished behind the western rooftops. At that moment, a single bell tolled from the holdfast's inner tower. 3 slow clangs. Jaime's signal. Brienne strode to the doors, raised a gauntlet. Gold cloaks heaved. The black oak slabs groaned inward, revealing a passage lit by guttering torches. Cool air gusted out, smelling of stone and old urine. Daenerys stepped forward. Drogon swooped down to flank her. Viserion and Rhaegal crawled along either side like living serpents. Bitter Legion formed 2 columns behind. They advanced. Inside, the corridor's vaulted ceiling dripped condensation. Every 20 paces stood a Kingsguard knight, some old, some young. Most lowered swords. None spoke. One gray-haired knight wept openly, helm under arm. Jaime waited at the antechamber to the throne room. White cloak streaked with soot, bright roar unsheathed. Black and red dragon mosaics lined the floor here. Wildfire lanterns glimmered behind lattice screens, each flame a miniature ghost dancing green upon marble. Pyromancers had set wards. Runes in fresh pig blood glowed in corners. Drogon spat at one and the rune guttered out. "Aerys sits alone," Jaime said, voice a dull echo. "He refuses counsel, refuses food but what Lord Rossart brings." He looked at the dragons, then to Daenerys. "I will enter with you. Others will bar the doors behind until the deed is done." "Is Rossart alive?" Willem asked. Jaime's mouth twitched. "If not, he soon will not be." He pivoted, strode through twin bronze doors carved with scenes of Aegon's conquest. The hinges howled like wounded wolves. Daenerys followed, dragons slithering. Throne room. Long, echoing, columns rising into shadow. Torch sconces spilled greenish light. No ordinary flame, wildfire flaring in enclosed iron cages. Across the hall the Iron Throne reared, twisted, maddened. And upon those blackened blades sat a gaunt figure in tattered crimson robes, silver hair disheveled, beard matted with spittle. Mad King Aerys too. His eyes glittered fever-bright behind purple shadows. A pyromancer stood beside, green glass vial in both hands. At their feet a brazier blazed lime green, fumes curling. Aerys' voice slid across the stone, high and brittle. "Kingslayer," he crooned, gaze fixed on Jaime. "Traitor, and you bring me pretty mice with wings. Will you burn for me, little mice?" Jaime halted halfway down the hall, sword lowered.
Daenerys Moktba.
St him until she stood on the first stair below the dais. Drogon clambered onto her shoulders, wings mantling. The Mad King's eyes darted, widened, took in the scales, the smoke curling from 3 sets of nostrils. "Father," Dany said softly. Aerys's laughter chittered like dry leaves. "A girl child," he hissed. "Are you the one they smuggled away through blood and storm? Come to judge your sire? I am the dragon, not you." He lurched to his feet, arms spread. The pyromancer uncorked the vial. Green flames licked glass. "You are fire made flesh," Daenerys said. "Then you know fire obeys stronger blood." She lifted her wounded palm toward the throne. Blood still seeped darker now. Drogon shrieked. Sound split torches made shadows shiver. Rhaegal's tail cracked marble. Viserion fanned wings. Aerys stumbled back, heels striking blades. "Rossart," he screeched. "Burn them. Burn them all." The pyromancer hurled the vial. Drogon leapt, jaws wide, swallowing green fire in a gulp that sent steam pouring from nostrils. The glass shattered harmlessly upon his tongue. He swallowed, scales shivering. Then he opened his mouth and exhaled a torrent of white-hot flame. Aerys screamed, not words, just terror. Flame engulfed him, climbed rusty swords, wrapped the throne in wreaths of orange and blue. The metal hissed. Rossart stumbled, robes aflame, shrieking prayers to gods of sun and shadow. Viserion's breath finished him in a flash that left only a blackened outline smoking on mosaic. Dank drafts pulled heat upward. Soot billowed. Behind, Jaime advanced 2 paces, sword unsheathed but unneeded. His face bathed in firelight, blank, neither proud nor ashamed. Dany watched. She felt heat stroke her cheeks, smelled charred hair, burnt meat, the tang of hot iron. Aerys's robes crisped to ash, bones blackened. In heartbeats, the Mad King fell to knees, then sideways, skull cracking against obsidian. The Iron Throne glowed red. Swords welded by dragonfire sang as they shrank, edges curling like ribbons. In silence that followed, Daenerys ascended burning steps. Flame licked her boots. Leather smoked but held. Drogon roosted on the throne's back, wings mantled to shield her from worst heat. When she reached the seat, Aerys's corpse lay bony charcoal. She knelt, pressed bloodied fingers to his brow. Ash marked her skin. "I forgive you," she whispered, "but I will not forget." She stood, turned. The hall was hers. Jaime knelt, sword reversed. Brienne entered, helm in crook of arm, and sank second. Knights of the Kingsguard followed. Hightower, Selmy, went. Some wept openly. Then Willem Darry, one hand over heart. Gold cloaks, bitter legion. The hall filled with knees on stone, heads bowed beneath green-lit rafters. Outside, bells tolled again, slow and heavy. Not the alarm of wildfire, but the birth of dawn. Daenerys Stormborn stepped forward. Flame retreated from her path like servants scurrying aside. She raised a hand over dragons, and their fire died, leaving coals crackling red among the throne's fused blades. Smoke swirled around her hair, wreathing her in a living crown. Embers glimmered like scattered stars in silver web. She spoke, voice clear yet soft enough that the vast chamber leaned closer to hear. "The madness is ended. Rise with me and rebuild this realm from embers. Kneel again and swear, not to fear or rumors, but to justice that knows mercy and fire that knows love." They rose. They swore. Their voices a river, each oath joining the next. Some stumbled over words, trembling. Others spoke firm. Yet in each face Daenerys saw a reflection of the fire, and within that reflection she glimpsed hope where once had dwelt only fear. Rhaegal coiled about the throne's haft, green and gold against black. Viserion settled atop a melted sword, tail wrapped like silk. Drogon glanced down upon them all, eyes twin furnaces. And so, as first light spilled through high windows to mingle with last tongues of dying fire, the Dragon Queen claimed her seat. Not upon twisted iron still too hot to touch, but upon the hearts of those who watched her and believed the world could be forged anew. At sunrise, the city gates opened to the rebels' camp west of the Blackwater, but they found banners of peace fluttering. Robert Baratheon rode through mud and morning fog to behold 3 dragons perched upon the battlements. The stag paused, antlers a silhouette against lavender sky, and all his triumph chilled, for he understood at last that the game had changed. Yet that tale would unfurl in the days and battles to come. For now the Red Keep echoed with new footsteps, and in its highest yard a little girl stood with 3 dragons twined about her, staring east over the narrow sea where someday more storms would rise. For now they were only hatchlings and she only 9, but fires grow and children and dreams. And sometimes, from ashes, whole realms are reborn. Smoke lingered like a gauze across every corridor of the Red Keep. Long after dawn slid its pale knife through the embrasures, the air tasted of copper and charcoal, and wall hangings drooped in damp tatters, their silks fused into crusted lace where sparks had kissed. Servants crept in terrified knots, sweeping ash into bronze basins that hissed when hot flecks found a stray drop of lantern oil. Wherever they passed, they bowed low to a girl in charred leathers whose dragons prowled behind like living heralds. Some called her Grace, others my lady. A few simply bent and whispered, "Blood of the dragon," so faintly the words dissolved in soot. She answered none. Her mind clanged like a forge. They gathered in the ruined solar of Maegor's Holdfast. Those few she chose: Ser Willem Darry, sallow and shaking; Brienne Darklyn, helm cradled like a beaten heart; Jaime Lannister still armored, white cloak scorched at the hem; Grand Maester Gorman, cheeks sunken, chains blackened by smoke; and Simon Hollard to speak for the city watch. No seat had been carved for her yet. The iron throne still glowed dull red, too hot for flesh. Instead they stood in uneven circle around a map table warped by overnight heat. Tiny silver lions, stags, flowers, and falcons lay toppled where glue had melted, leaving only 3 on their tiny pedestals. Dragons of jet and ruby, untouched by fire. Regal circled the table once, sniffed a puddle of cooled solder, and snapped the head from a lion the size of a thumbnail. Grand Maester Gorman dabbed sweat from his bald scalp. Messages ride already, you're my queen. Ravenry smokes with wings. Yet before quills outrun sword points, we must choose what tidings fly. Tell the realm truth, Daenerys said, voice roughened by soot. My father's death, my ascension, the ending of wildfire plots. Tell them I granted peace to the small folk and invited the rebel host to parley. Willem cleared his throat. There will be those who name it regicide. A faint smile brushed Jaime's mouth. Hard to accuse a daughter when the father tried to roast the city. The realm may yet thank her. Brienne slammed mailed fist to table. Truth is enough. If lords prefer lies, let them choke on them. Gorman wobbled his jowls in uneasy nod. We shall send 4 ravens. 1 to Old Town, 1 to Riverrun, 1 to Sunspear, 1 to the Eyrie. Word will scatter from those perches like seed. Seeds need soil, Simon Hollard muttered, and war plows fields deep. He lifted a parchment. Reports from the gates. Lord Tywin's van encamped at King's Landing's western approach. 30,000 under lion banners. Ser Meryn of the City Watch rode to treat. Turned back with arrow skimming his helm. No demands yet, only waiting. Willem swore. If the lion means to besiege us, we have too little grain. The Mad King squandered stores feeding pyromancers. Jaime tapped a gauntlet. My father rode figuring Aerys would burn the city if denied aid. Now Aerys is ash, and a child he never met sits the throne. Tywin's pride may dislike that surprise, but pride bends to power. Show him something sharper than his own sword. All eyes slid to the dragons. Regal flattened his frill. Viserion hissed. Drogon, sprawled across a windowsill, opened one eye, ember red. Daenerys's gaze hardened. I will meet Lord Tywin at the gate of the gods by sunset, alone but for my dragons. If he bends the knee, his crimes are dust. If not, the field will burn. Brienne finished, satisfaction flickering like steel. Jaime inclined his head. I will escort you. My presence may temper his temper. Your father once swore you into his counsels, Willem growled. Now you betray him thrice in a night. Jaime's lips curved. Twice, good sir. The third awaits his choice. Daenerys raised a hand. Enough. Ready the outer yard. Clear the market road. Let citizens witness this meeting. To Gorman, feed the hungry from what larders remain. Melt down the crown's jewels if silver runs dry. A queen feeds her people before she dresses herself. Maester, knight, and captain bowed. Only Jaime met her eyes, a glint of respect or calculation. She could not tell. Then the meeting broke like surf against rocks, leaving her in echoing chamber with 3 dragons and a map as warped as the realm. She ran a finger along the trident. Solder flaked under her nail. Somewhere up that river Robert Baratheon camped, waiting for word. Somewhere Storm's End stood half empty, its lord marching to war that might already be lost. A flutter of wings disturbed her thoughts. A raven lit upon the embrasure near Drogon, scroll bound to leg. The bird stared with coal eyes. Drogon regarded it in kind. Fire met feather. The raven shivered but did not flee. Dany untied the scroll, unrolled wax-smeared parchment. A sigil stamped in green wax. A flaming heart crowned by a stag. She scanned the quill-scratched lines, lips parting. "What?" Willem asked, returning for his gauntlets. "Robert Baratheon requests audience at sunset along with Lord Eddard Stark and Jon Arryn. Under truce." She looked to Drogon. "The game has 3 heads, they say. So does this parley." The city thrummed like a hive as sun slanted west. Gold cloaks lined the route from the red keep to the gate of the gods. Halberds held butts down in sign of peace. Small folk packed balconies and rooftops. A mottled river of faces rimmed by smoke where cook fires mixed with lingering ash. Somewhere bells clanged a lullaby of fear and expectation. Seabirds wheeled overhead, crying above the muted roar. Daenerys rode not a horse but a palanquin open to the air, borne by 6 members of the Bitter Legion in dragon-scale corselets. She refused curtains. The people must see her. Drogon perched on the forward rim, talons puncturing cedar. Regal curled at her feet, tail flicking. Viserion rode rearward, scanning rooftops. She wore crimson silk stitched with black scales, simple yet fitting. No crown, only a narrow circlet of Valyrian steel that Ser Willem had prized from her father's treasuries at dawn. It felt cold upon her brow, heavy though thin. Jaime Lannister rode beside the palanquin astride a white courser. No helm, lion cloak swapped for city watch yellow to mark neutrality. He had not joked since morning. Tension pulled his handsome mouth taut. Brienne stalked ahead on foot, sword across shoulder. The red dragon of House Darklyn sewn crude but bold upon a new black surcoat. Pollard's gold cloaks flanked. They reached the gate at the hour when sunlight strikes its marble arch and paints it honey. Beyond, fields stretched to the western hills where Lannister tents glimmered crimson and gold. Closer, at spear's cast, a smaller host waited. Baratheon standards, a dire wolf quartered with a gule's hand, the falcon and moon of Arryn, a smattering of Tyrell roses. Prisoners of truce, perhaps. The air smelled of trampled grass and the sweeter tang of roasted ox from rebel fires. Robert Baratheon sat his black warhorse like a boulder poised to avalanche. He wore plate scratched and dented from the trident, blue cloak torn at hem, silver stags hammered into pauldrons. Beside him, Eddard Stark's gray cloak stirred in faint breeze, hair dark as fertile soil. His gaze rested everywhere with wary calm. Jon Arryn, bearded, gaunt, eyes ringed, held the reins of a palfrey, chain of office glinting. They spoke low until hoofbeats drew attention. Robert's thick brows rose as he saw the girl queen and her lizards. Daenerys stepped from palanquin unaided. Drogon leapt to her shoulder, wings mantling. Silence washed over the field. She advanced 3 paces, stopped within arrow's reach, and inclined her head. Not a bow, a courtesy. Robert's voice rolled like a drum across stone. "They told me the mad dragon's get was a babe in swaddling. I find a child in scale and smoke." Dany felt Drogon vibrate with indignation. "Children grow," she said, "some faster than men." Robert barked a laugh, halting when Viserion hissed. "Aye, and some bite sooner." He nudged horse forward, armor clanking. We parley under the gods' gaze. You burned your mad sire. I broke your mad brother. Will you take up their sins? He gestured behind to Tywin's silent ranks. Give us the city, girl. Bend the knee, and I'll grant you Dragonstone and the stepstones besides. Raise your beasts there, far from decent folk. Her heart hammered, yet her voice walked cool stone. You broke Rhaegar. I heal what he loved. Dragonstone is mine already, but the Iron Throne is as well, and I cannot bend to a crown taken by force. Eddard Stark spoke, voice deep, solemn. Many good men died believing Robert the rightful heir after Prince Rhaegar abducted Lyanna Stark. Truth forged their oaths. Does your mercy stretch far enough to forgive them? Mercy is not forgiveness, she said. It is restraint. She surveyed Robert's bruised armor. Did Rhaegar abduct your sister, Lord Stark? Or did she fly south of her own will? Song differs with singer. Stark's jaw set. Robert's gauntlet creaked. But Jon Arryn raised a calming hand. Blood will drown Westeros if quarrel rises anew. A compromise. Robert remains as Lord Protector until your majority. You wed when of age, seat a small council, share rule. The realm avoids further war. She considered. Wedding to whom? Robert's eyes glinted, obvious as steel. Stark's too drifted to his king, troubled. Jaime murmured at her side. A lion for a husband might suit better. She ignored that. Half a crown is no crown, she said. Yet I offer this. I name Robert Baratheon Warden of the South for life, Steward of Storm's End, and pardoned for rebellion. Lord Arryn returns as hand if he swears to guard the realm's children before its crowns. Lord Stark is Warden of the North as his fathers were. Lord Tywin will answer for sack of King's Landing. Tywin chose that moment to ride alone between hosts, armor gleaming like molten gold. His eyes, green slits, swept her from boots to circlet. The sack, he said, voice soft as falling snow, was prevention, not crime. I saved tens of thousands from wildfire. He motioned to Jaime. My son's part, you know. Jaime stiffened. We recall, Daenerys answered. And his conscience remains between him and the gods. Tywin's thin smile never touched eyes. You seek to sit a throne upon the word of Sel's words and beasts yet unweaned. But gold buys Sel's words. And dragons, he looked to Drogon, die to well-cast scorpions. Dany raised a hand. Drogon's pupils shrank. Heat shimmered in air. Tywin's horse stamped, nostrils flaring. Yet the Lion Lord did not flinch. Robert broke the tense line with a heavy sigh. Tywin, save speeches. Girl, the stalemate bleeds coffers. Let us duel, king to queen. He hefted a warhammer of black iron. Your lizards keep perch. I wield steel. Single combat ends wars. Jeers and cheers rippled through both armies. Brienne's hand flew to hilts. Jaime cursed under breath. Dany tilted her head. Your strength is legend. My dragons are small. It would be no duel. Robert grinned. Bring the black one. Fair odds. Fair. She smiled small, sad. I am 9. You are crowned in scars. She turned to Tywin, Arryn, Stark. Men dream of honor while others die. I will not gamble live so lightly. Accept my terms, and peace crowns us all. Refuse, and Dragonfire will decide. Tywin's mouth pressed thin. Robert's grip whitened. Arryn swallowed, looked skyward where Viserion circled. Stark's gaze locked with hers, something unspoken passing. A memory of children in harm's path. He turned to Robert. Your grace, the realm cannot bear another field of fire. Robert spat into dust. The realm cannot bear a dragonling burning it. Yet his shoulders slumped. Jon Arryn rode forward 3 paces, knee cracking as he dismounted before Daenerys. He knelt. I served your grandfather. I served your father until madness took him. I will serve the realm again through you, if you vow to guard its people first. He extended open hands. Gasps rippled.
Stark dismuntet, knelt beside, klog pooling in Gras.
Winter remembers honor, he said. I bend the knee. Robert stared, Thunderstruck, Tywin's face froze unbearably still. Only a pulse ticked in temple. Then Robert swung from saddle, armor ringing, strode to Ned Stark. "Damn you for this," he growled, but fell to one knee. If peace, then peace. The field seemed to exhale. Birds rose from distant thickets. Tywin alone remained seated. Eyes drifted to him like iron filings to lodestone. He surveyed kneeling men, then Daenerys. With a flick of wrist he wheeled horse, cloak flaring. "The lion does not kneel to cubs," he said, voice carrying. He spurred away toward his camp. Lannister banners closed round him. Jaime watched father depart, jaw clenched. He knelt slowly, Kingslayer white cloak brushing dirt. "Forgive the lion," he murmured. "He guards only himself." Daenerys extended hand to Robert first. The huge man gripped her slender fingers as if afraid they might crack. "Storm ends," she said. "Help me build calm." He laughed, shaky. "Aye, girl, we'll try." Treaty tents blossomed by mid-afternoon like pale mushrooms across field outside Lion Gate. Within the largest, Daenerys sat at cedar table between Robert and Jon Arryn while Eddard Stark read articles aloud. Ink scratched, seals dripped wax. Terms: Robert Guardian of South, Stannis confirmed Lord of Dragonstone under fealty. Arryn reinstated as Hand. Stark's pardons, crown debts to the Iron Bank renegotiated. Tyrell host to disperse within fortnight. Tywin summoned for council on penalty of forfeiture. Dornish rights reaffirmed. Each clause heavier than any sword, yet they signed. Brienne served as Queen's sworn sword now. Willem claimed master of ships. Simon Hollard named commander of gold cloaks. Jaime accepted exile from Kingsguard at own request, title stripped, yet remained at court as guest captain. A chain of paper heavier than gold. He smiled wryly when Daenerys granted it. A gilded cage beats a burning one, that dusk campfires studded hills. Songs drifted, plaintive airs of the Reach, drum-pounding marches of the Stormlands, dirges of the North, mingling into a tapestry of uneasy hope. In the Red Keep, servants lit crystal chandeliers in halls scrubbed clean of soot, though scorch marks remained like ghosts on stone. Regal roost atop the Tower of the Hand. Viserion slipped through open windows chasing moths. Drogon claimed Iron Throne's highest spire, black silhouette against purple sky. Daenerys dined sparingly. Pomegranate seeds, honeyed quail, flanked by Stark and Arryn. Robert feasted elsewhere, hounds at feet, mead splashing. Yet all eyes tracked dragons beyond arched casements. Every gnaw of lamb, every sip of wine carried question. How long before those wings blot sun? Night brought thunder rolling of Blackwater. Lightning flashed, turning towers to stark white bones. Dany walked the ramparts alone save Drogon stalking. Rain hissed on hot stone. Steam rose. She watched Lannister camp lanterns flicker like dying stars. Somewhere inside, Tywin counted swords and grudges. She feared him more than Robert, yet not so much as her own inexperience. Boots scuffed behind. Jaime emerged, hair wet, not armored. "Your dragons glow," he said. Indeed, droplets steamed on Drogon scales like pearls on obsidian. "A heartbeat earlier they were hatchlings. A heartbeat ago I was a babe," she answered. "Fate grows swiftly." He leaned on Crenel. "My father will plot. He commands coin enough to buy hearts." She looked at him. "Will he buy yours back?" His smile crooked. "Mine's been spent." Rain plastered gold hair to cheeks. "I saved 500,000 small folk today by ending one man. Perhaps I begin paying." She studied the Kingslayer. Weary pride, grief buried beneath lacquer of sardonic ease. "Stay then, help us shape peace." He inclined head. "For now, until the lion's roar fades." Lightning forked, illuminating horizon. Across river, Dragonmont's silhouette loomed black. Her mother's bones lay there. Her brother's dreams drifted sea-wrack. Somewhere beyond, Viserys' fate unknown. She wondered if he lived, chasing Selsword promises. A pang of guilt flickered. "Tomorrow," Jaime said, "the realm wakes to rumors. priests will name you savior, or usurper, or child of prophecy. I am a child, she said, rain mixing with tears she would not shed. Yet children grow, and prophecies bend around blood. She stroked Drogon's neck, heat pulsed. If I must be queen to spare them madness, then I'll be queen. Jaime's eyes softened. Then let us pray tomorrow's dawn is gentler than tonight's fire. The morrow did not dawn gentle. Before cockcrow, horns blared from eastern walls. Messengers pounded up spiral stairs, faces white. A fleet under black sails slipped Blackwater Bay. 50 galleys, lean and swift, each mast bearing a crowned stag over Crimson Heart. Stannis Baratheon's return, storm's end relieved. Yet behind the royal sigil another flew, a golden kraken on sable. The Ironborn had come south on promise of plunder. Daenerys convened council in tower still stained with soot. Robert stormed in red-eyed, stag helm under arm. Brother brings reavers to my gates, he growled. Thrall to Balon Greyjoy, by the gods. Aaron unfurled reports. Stannis' fleet had barred retreating Tyrell ships, captured grain, then allied with Greyjoy. Motive unknown, perhaps fury at Robert's pact. Ships rode upriver even now. At dawn they might disgorge troops at Mudgate. Dany felt hot clarity settle. This day we prove the peace, she said. Robert, defend riverfront with Stark and Hollard.
Brienne commands gate teiers.
I take dragons.
Willem peelt.
They are small yet. They burn, she said, and fear will douse courage faster than steel. She strode for stairs. Rain had ceased, but thunder rumbled still. This time drums on decks, oar beats splashing. From the ramparts she saw sails knifing upriver, black shapes on pewter water. Flaming pots hurled from catapults on leading ships splashed oily fire. Green tongues leapt where wildfire vials broke against battlement. Ares' stores stolen. Archers loosed, gold cloaks answered. Stark's northern longbowmen took station, arrow flight darkening dawn. Dany climbed to parapet overlooking river mouth. Drogon spread wings. Regal and Viserion streaked from tower peaks to join. Wind tore at her braid. She inhaled salt, smoke, destiny. Blood of my blood, she told them in Valyrian. Guard this city. She leapt, not to stone, but to Regal's back, tiny hands clinging ridge of scales. He dropped before wind caught. Muscles surged beneath her like molten iron. Drogon screamed, banked starboard. Viserion followed. Archers paused in awe as 3 comets plunged toward fleet. Flames burst in throats, white-hot jets cutting rain-damp sky. The leading Kraken galley erupted, masts splintering, tarslick deck igniting green and orange. Sailors shrieked, leaping into water now boiling. Stannis' flagship, Fury, swerved. Rams scraped stone wharf as crew lashed scorpions upward. Bolts hissed, one nicking Viserion's wing. He screeched, banking, smoke streaming. Dany's heart clenched, but Dragonchild steadied. Fire swirling from jaws to engulf catapult crew. Regal skimmed masts, claws ripping canvas, flame chewing rope. Dany clung low, breath torn free, vision tunneled to funnel of destruction she birthed. A line of burning ships, black smoke pillars merging with storm cloud. On the far shore Robert's men cheered. Gray-cloaked Northmen loosed volleys at scrambling reavers. Greyjoy warriors dove, axes flailing useless at water. Stannis' oars labored, trying to beach. Drogon swooped, seized rams prow and talons, furnace breath melting bronze. Wood groaned, buckling. Fury lurched, deck tilting. Stannis himself appeared, fiery beard, grim mouth, swinging cutlass. He cursed dragons, commanded scorpion. Too slow, a torrent of fire engulfed bow. Sailors dropped rigging to roll screaming. Flames chased pitch seams, reaching powder magazine. Blast rocked river, sending shards skyward.
Shockwave joltait Dragal, d'Agnès Irran.
When smoke thinned, Fury drifted gutted. Masts toppled, banners scorched. Stannis nowhere to be seen. Galleys behind reverse stroke, fleeing bay mouths. Many burned still, river surface dancing with flame patches like fallen stars. Dany circled thrice, verifying retreat. Then she guided Regal to peer outside Mud Gate. Small folk knelt, arms aloft. Robert arrived mud-splattered, helm dented. He stared at wreckage, then at girl astride dragon, disbelief twisting into grudging reverence. 7 hells, he breathed. Your father never rode a dragon, and I thank gods for that. He bowed deep, weighty. King or queen, the realm is yours. She dismounted, knees shaking. Drogon landed heavy, eyes whirling. Viserion glided in, wing torn but flight-worthy. She stroked each snout, murmuring thanks. Robert clasped her shoulder. Stannis lives, saw him swim to Shallop. He'll brood, but Greyjoy will think thrice before raiding these waters again. She nodded. We save prisoners. Mercy breeds loyalty. He laughed, hollow. Mercy from a dragon. The ballads will choke. That night torches ringed Blackwater where hulks still smoldered. Survivors fished from shoals, hauled oarsmen shivering to triage tents. Maesters lugged poultices. Septons prayed. Daenerys walked among wounded, dragons at heel. Some shrank, others blessed her. One ironborn spat, Drogon growled. The man fainted. At tent's end she found a sailor wrapped in sodden cloak, eyes fierce. Stannis Baratheon, beard singed, harmony of scorn and admiration. Guards parted at her sign. Lord Stannis, she greeted. You fought bravely. He glowered. You fight with monsters. She crouched. They are children, as am I. Monsters are forged by men who refuse peace. She offered water. He drank grudgingly. I swore to make Robert king, he rasped. Now he bends to you. The realm is mad. Better mad with hope than fire. She rose. Heal. Serve the crown you shed blood for, mine, Robert's, the realms. We need stern counsel. He barked harsh laugh. Stern, I'll judge you quick if you falter. Then stand ready, she said, and left him to his doubt. Weeks crawled. Grain ships arrived from Bravos. Coin minted. Streets swept. The Iron Throne cooled enough to sit. Still Dany abstained. Let it remember scorch, she said, preferring council chamber. Branched across realm, ravens carried edicts. Taxes eased, orphanages funded. Wildfire stockpiles destroyed under Maester supervision. Jaime oversaw meltings. Each batch drowned outside Dragon Pit where stones still whispered of ancient roars. Tywin Lannister withdrew to Casterly Rock, refusing summons. Spies spoke of new forges shaping giant scorpions. Mercenaries hired in Pentos. The lion sharpened claws. Viserys resurfaced in Tyrosh, courted Golden Company. Letters reached Red Keep. Raving demands for crown he claimed by right. Dany wept, then ordered parchment reply. Return, brother, and rule beside me. No answer came. Regal, Drogon, and Viserion doubled in length by moon's turn, wings broad as fisher nets. They hunted rats in Dragon Pit, torched pigeons, snapped goats delivered from Stormlands. Maester Gorman worried of cities' flame-tiled roofs. Dany commissioned Dragon Yard outside walls, Oak Palisade Ring and Deep Lake to slake fire. In quiet hours she climbed to Maegor's holdfast roof, watching stars wheel. The war was not ended, merely paused. But for the first time, breeze tasted not of ash but of sea salt promise. She whispered gratitude to unknown gods and known ghosts. To Rhaegar who loved songs, to her mother who died birthing hope, to father who burned in madness so she could rise from flame sane. Across courtyard torches, Jaime practiced with Brienne, blades clashing echo. Robert snored drunken lullaby somewhere in Tower of the Hand, whore under each arm. Ned Stark wrote letters to Winterfell describing dragons with scholar's precision for children he grieved to be far from. Jon Arryn spent nights thumbing ancient laws, carving new ones to fit girl and fire. And Daenerys Targaryen, stormborn, mother of dragons, felt the realm breathe beneath her bare feet, fragile as a fledgling in hand. She would guard it with flame if peace failed, with mercy if hope endured, with steel of will always. For winter would come, and summer would fade, and men would forget fear in comfort. But dragons remembered, and she would remember too. So the Dragon Queen closed her eyes to starlight, listening to Regal's distant roar reverberate across silent courts, and dreamed of a dawn where no bells told warning, no pyres stank of kings, no swords rang in children's nightmares, only wings beating time to heartbeat of a realm reborn in gentle, living fire. Rain pattered like errant drumbeats on the slate of Maegor's holdfast while the red dawn bled through casements, staining every corridor the color of half-remembered wounds. Somewhere beneath that waking light, Daenerys Targaryen flexed fingers still blistered from the Blackwater firestorm, rolled her shoulders, and told herself the ache belonged to a body that refused weakness. She stood at the window of her solar, a chamber stripped of every velvet cushion and useless bauble Ares had hoarded, and looked upon a city mending itself one heartbeat at a time. Smoke no longer laced the skyline. Fishermen's sails patched with good reach linen dotted the river. Bakers queued before granaries restocked by Braavosi cogs. Peace if brittle. Yet southwest, over the bay, crimson and gold banners spiked the morning mist. Tywin Lannister's host still sprawled along the King's Road, silent, watchful. 20,000 men drilling, dice clacking, forges ringing steel meant for throats that might or might not become their enemies. For 9 days the lion had neither parleyed nor marched. He waited, sharpening patience as others did swords. Behind Daenerys, the soft clink of Maester's chain announced Grand Maester Gormon's entrance. "Your Grace, the Dornish envoy has birthed. Prince Doran's own banner. They seek audience before noontide. Prepare the audience hall," she said, eyes never leaving field haze. "And quench every brazier. Heat offends Dornish courtesy in summer." She had read that in crumbling scrolls between council sessions. Knowledge, like Valyrian steel, was forged in fire then quenched cold. The Maester hesitated. "There is more. A rider from Rosby, Lord Gunser broke his leg last night. He begs relief from his levy quota. Send 2 carts of barley and a dozen master carpenters to rebuild Rosby's well. Grain buys swords quicker than gold." She turned. "And Maester, arrange fresh plaster for the throne room ceiling. The burn patterns distract." Gormon bowed, chains rattling like subdued ghosts, and withdrew. Regal poked his head from the hearth, eyes lamping amber. He had learned that hearths were embers to bathe in. The servants now stocked only cold ash. The dragon blew a disappointed cough of smoke. Daenerys knelt to stroke emerald scales. "Soon," she promised. "The dragon yard nears completion." Footsteps made crisp echoes. Brienne Darklyn, armor freshly oiled, cloak sewn with a truer dragon now. Black on red, wings outspread. "Patrol reports Tywin shifted trebuchets closer in the night," she said without greeting. "Half a mile inside truce line." Daenerys rose. "Supply wagons? Twice the usual. Barrels sealed with wax." Daenerys's brows knit. "Ash or pitch? Could be bread." Brienne's mouth tightened. "Could be plague." Daenerys slid past her, calling without turning, "Tell Jaime we ride." They crossed the field on a ride of uneasy theater. Daenerys small astride a dappled courser, cloak snapped tight. Drogon circling high against bleaching sky. Brienne, Jaime, a wedge of 50 gold cloaks behind. Lion sentries watched in stone-chiseled silence as the Queen's party approached the first picket line. Wooden stakes hammered into muddy earth, scarlet pennants unmoving in still air. A captain in gilded half-armor stepped forward. "Lord Tywin receives none before midday. Then he receives me at sunrise," Daenerys replied, urging horse onward. The captain bristled but did not block. They threaded tents where Smith bellows wheezed, where yellow-haired squires gaped at airborne dragon shadow, where sellswords hissed bets on whether that shadow might stoop. At the camp's heart rose a pavilion of red silk twice the size of Baelor's September nave. Gold lions snarled on tasseled flaps. 2 guards parted them. Inside, Tywin Lannister sat behind a plain oaken trestle, quill poised above parchment. No entourage save a single gaunt maester sharpening goose feather. His eyes flicked from scroll to queen as though measuring height for coffin boards. Daenerys dismounted without flourish. "Lord Tywin, You mass engines within arrow-shot of my walls. I mass bread, he answered. Siege engines follow hunger, your grace. My men will not starve while you feed gutter snipes. He sealed parchment with crimson wax. Nor will gold lions beg crumbs from a dragon's table. Brienne bristled. Jaime lingered back, gaze roving. Daenerys studied the wax seal smoking faintly. Bread spoils in sealed barrels. Unless salted. Tywin gestured to his maester, who whisked the scroll away. I deliver grain to small keeps between here and Duskendale. Villages loyal to me, yes, yet loyal also to survival. If your riders escort my wagons, rumors of siege fade. Let the realm see dragon and lion yoked. It sounded like compromise. It felt like claws knotting round her wrists. A refusal would frame her as hoarder. Acceptance would paint Tywin benevolent and slide his convoys to city gates. She felt heat coil in belly. Escort, then, she said, under Brienne's command, and wagons submit to inspection. Tywin dipped his chin. As you wish. Jaime exhaled as though surfacing from deep water. Brienne's steel-gloved fist tapped breastplate in acknowledgement, but her eyes warned. We walk a lion's ledge. Outside, afternoon rose bright. Over the tents floated a hush that was not peace, merely the pause between heartbeats. By noon Daenerys stood at the head of the throne room while Dornish envoys were announced with trumpet shrill. The sailors of Sunspear filed in. Amber robes dyed blood orange, silk strips tied about brows. At their center, Lady Arianne Martell stepped barefoot, anklets chiming. She wore a simple sheath of copper lame, no veil, and her black eyes shimmered like sunstruck obsidian. She sank to one knee, touched fingers to brow then heart. Dorne greets the mother of dragons. Daenerys descended the dais' half-cooled blades. The Iron Throne waited behind, swaddled in damp cloth. Rise, Lady Arianne. Your father sends blessings. And patience. Arianne's lips hinted at curve. Dorne remembers dragons. We remember ashes in our skies. But we also remember your grandsire's mother, Princess Diana Martell, blood of ours. We come not to bend knee, but to bind wrists with silk. The hall murmured. Robert shifted upon council bench. Ned Stark's eyes narrowed. Arianne produced a scroll bright with orange ribbon. A treaty, she said. Marriage between Queen Daenerys and Prince Quentyn Martell when both reach ripeness. In return, Dorne grants 10,000 spearmen, rights to lemon trade, and yearly tithe of water-carried olives. Our armies flank the reach should roses turn thorn. Marriage, again the gate of power, the collar of alliances. The hall held its breath. Daenerys asked, Does Prince Quentyn consent, or is he merely coin you spend? Arianne's laugh tinkled. Quentyn is stone, not coin. He consents to duty. Her gaze slid to Robert's scowling face. Unlike some, Dorne values vows. A growl rumbled deep in the king's barrel chest. Jaime smirked behind a gauntlet fist. Daenerys considered. Dorne's spears could pin Tywin between hammer and wall. Yet wedding talk pressed heavy. She was 9, dwarfed by thrones and expectations. She laid a palm on Drogon's warm head where he coiled round foot of dais. The dragon's eyes mirrored flame inside her. Tell Prince Doran, she said softly, that silk binds wrists only if both hearts knot it. I will mediate terms myself in Sunspear after New Year. Until then, Dorne's spears are welcome guests in King's Landing. Their sons will break bread beside my dragons. Arianne inclined. We will feast them upon sand and sun. She withdrew. Robert lumbered up the dais as the doors shut. You turn away marriage pacts like a tavern made spurning drunks, he muttered. I delay, she corrected. Delay is not denial. She stared him down until his bluster deflated. Night draped silver over spires as Daenerys slipped from council chamber to Godswood. The tiny square of moon-washed tranquility Aegon the Conqueror kept for his southern gods. A weirwood imported at ruinous cost had never taken root. Only a twisted oak stood, leaves like skeletal hands. Ned Stark waited beneath, long sword ice resting tip in moss. He bowed without kneeling. Your Grace, he said, voice softer here than throne room stone. You handle lion and viper both, yet both coil tighter each day. Robert trusts fists. Tywin trusts coins. Dornish trusts daggers. And you, Lord Stark, trust winter, she answered. I trust children. He sheathed ice. I have 5 in Winterfell who dream of dragons and dread them too. You are little older than my Arya, yet you ride war's storm. He stepped close. Let me guide your hand. Not as hand of the king Aaron bears that weight, but as conscience. When songs fade and swords rust, conscience remains. I welcome true counsel, she said. She had expected a lecture. He offered compass. She offered her forearm. He clasped it. Northern chill met southern warmth between palms, and storms quietened one moment. 3 nights later, moonless dark cloaked King's Landing. Rain whispered across crenels. In Dragonyard, the dragons slumbered within freshwater moat still ringed by scaffold. Gatehouse torches guttered. Under that flicker crawled 3 shadows dressed in gray, faces smeared with pig fat to mask heat. They unslung bags stuffed with iron-barbed corals tipped in thick green paste, basilisk venom brewed in liss. One fixed crank to scorpion stock hidden beneath hay cart, another hoisted windlass. Quiet as regret, they loaded, aimed through murder hole toward sleeping forms. A low growl rustled straw.
Viserio nun coiled. No.
Strills flaring. Venom arrow loosed with twang missed, clanging off scale. The dragon shrieked. Gatehouse erupted in pale fire. Straw cart detonated. Flames licking scaffold timbers. Assassins scattered. One flung grappling hook, but Brienne's night watch crashed into yard, blades flashing. 2 fell to cold iron. The 3rd sprinted for Sallyport. Drogon swooped from tower, seized him mid-air, bit clean through torso. Blood rained black in starlight. Dany arrived barefoot, hair unbound, guards flanking. She smelled venom burning on stones, saw Viserion's wings scored but shallow. He hissed at pain, but flame crackled strong. Brienne knelt in mud before corpses. Their jerkin linings bore lion sigils sewn backward, a sign of clandestine reach. Jaime arrived minutes late, horror warring with fury. I swear, not my father, he whispered. Tywin would strike at me, not beasts. Strike at my heart, Daenerys corrected, wiping ash from Viserion's cut with wine-soaked cloth. The dragon's eyes rolled white, yet he allowed. She turned to Jaime. Tomorrow ride to your father. Tell him the next arrow aimed at dragon flesh will bring fire upon his tent, and upon Casterly Rock. Jaime's swallow bobbed like stone. He pledged. That pledge galloped at dawn. Within the day, red tent collapsed, Tywin gone. Scouts tracked his column west, banners furled. Half his siege train left smoking behind, bribed or abandoned. At Bitterbridge, Lannister host split. One half rode north to Harrenhal, the other south to Old Oak. Ser Kevin left note pinned by crimson dagger to tree outside Rosby. We owe dead of bread. Daenerys watched them vanish from walls, a storm receding. But storms circle back. Autumn bled into gutters. Leaves crisped, nights cooled. Dragons tripled in girth, claws gouging trench walls. Clattering armor alone stopped curious children from losing fingers. In the septas sang Westerman widows home to stranger. In potshops, fishermen swapped tales of a pale serpent dragon seen hunting whales beyond Skagos, Viserion developing wanderlust. Council petitions multiplied, Tyrell envoys demanding repayment for grain lost to Stannis, Iron Bank insisting on interest, Stepstone's pirates raiding. Each scroll weighted her wrists, but she read all. Knowledge curdles fear. One crisp dawn, Ser Willem burst into solar-clutching raven. Viserys sails for Storm's End with golden company. 50 ships. Her lungs burned. Brother, bitter and proud, returning not for embrace but throne. She remembered him scrawny in Illyrio's halls, ranting of crowns melted to embers for him to drink. She loved him, yet feared the madness in his need. She called counsel swift. We meet Prince Viserys at Storm's End's shore, she declared. With peace, not fire. Robert objected. Let the boy break himself. But Ned Stark seconded her. Blood should greet blood. They left before dawn 2 days later, small retinue. Daenerys on silver mare, regal overhead, Robert, Ned, Jaime, Brienne, a dozen Northmen, and 300 mounted Dornish outriders newly arrived. The King's Road south lay golden beneath harvest sun, but tension rode colder than first frost. Farmers waved half-hearted. Behind them stood charred barns from last winter's foragers. Near Fellwood they found Tyrell outriders slain at crossroads, quarrels of black and gold in chests, golden company markers. Ned knelt by a corpse, brow shadowed. "Compassion dwindles," he muttered. At night Daenerys dreamed of a room filled with green glass flasks. She walked barefoot across floor blades. Behind her strode Viserys, crowned with molten gold he poured himself. She woke trembling under star-salted sky. Dragons nestled warm against her cloaked frame. They reached Storm's End after 5 days, towers jutting like clawed fists above white-capped sea. Golden company banners, the winged skull above crossed sword and torch, snapped from ramparts. Below, triremes bobbed in churning bay. Viserys awaited on courtyard's cracked mosaic, garbed in half-plate gilded bright. Hair grown long, dyed purple at tips. He spread arms as she dismounted. "Little sister," he crooned across Windy Gap. "Dressed for war? Or surrender?" "I dress for truth," she said, stepping closer. "Father's madness died with him. Ours need not bloom anew." His smile sliced. "Madness? Father loved fire. Dragons love fire. You betray the blood." She reached for him. "Brother." He flinched back. "Brother? You mean rival." He gestured. Cell's word captains tensed. "Kneel. Yield crown, keep life. I will keep dragons." Regal's shriek split gale. A gust knocked Viserys' hair across his face. For heartbeat fear flickered there. Robert advanced a step, hammer in fist. Ned laid hand upon dagger. Brienne angled shield. Daenerys' voice found steel. "You threatened my children." "Mine." Viserys spat. "I am the dragon." "No," she drew dagger Illyrio gifted. A sliver of Valyrian steel reflecting storm-wrung sky. "True dragons do not fear flame." She slashed palm, blood welled. Regal inhaled smoke. Viserys' eyes widened as droplets hissed on scale. He stumbled, looked to Cell's words for courage, but they edged away. None paid to fight dragons grown half-size horses. He snatched sword, trembling. "You would kill your kin? I would save him from himself." She raised bleeding hand. "Come." "Take crown you crave." He hesitated, tears springing salt. "Always the beggar queen," he whispered, voice breaking. "Always soft." Wind howled. At last he threw sword down, sank to knees. Tears left tracks in dust. "Take it," he sobbed. "Take crown. Take all. Just do not burn me." Daenerys knelt opposite, pressed cut palm to his cheek. "We rise or fall together," she said. He trembled like reed. She called for bandages. Robert frowned but nodded. Ned looked away, grateful. For weeks Viserys lay sick with fever aboard flagship returning up coast, tended by maesters. Each time he raved of dragons whispering, Daenerys held his hand until fit passed. Winter's first frost silvered parapets when the fleet re-entered Blackwater. Bells pealed welcome, yet on quay stood messenger pale. Ravens from Harrenhal sack and slaughter. Lion banners fly. Daenerys felt blood chill. Tywin had moved. Council convened past midnight. Reports painted horror. Harren's melted towers now glowed with fresh pyres. Northbound grain convoys seized. River lords strung upon weirwood poles. The lion roared louder. Robert slammed goblet. "We march at dawn."
Ned countered, Riverun floods, snows 13 passes, men starve.
Jaime sat silent, guilt pounding behind green gaze. Daenerys rose. "We meet lion on field of his choosing, but not for his reasons. He seeks to provoke dragon's wrath to turn river folk against me. We answer with mercy and winter stores." She looked to Gorman. "Open granaries. Send wagons upriver escorted by Stark riders and Dornish spears." Jaime leads envoy to demand Tywin's withdrawal or face condemnation by entire realm. Jaime nodded slowly. He will not yield. Then, she said low, the realm will see who spills blood.
Brines vist met chestplate in pledge.
Viserys, pale but standing, surprised all with quiet resolve. I will ride with you, sister. Let the realm see dragons share one fire. She searched his eyes for madness, found smoldering shame amid ash. She granted permission but bade him ride unarmed save for silver dagger of her childhood, symbol of trust. The relief column wound along King's Road under gray sky. Snowflakes meandered, first of season. Villagers knelt as wagons passed, muttering thanks. In one hamlet, a woman set newborn in Daenerys' arms. The child's fist closed round her ring. She kissed brow smelling of milk and smoke. Viserys watched, eyes wet, then turned away. By moon's shift, they reached Red Fork. Harrenhal's silhouette, black fingers grasping clouds, glimmered with fresh torch glow. Parley banners flew above Broken Gate. Jaime rode ahead beneath white map of truce. Daenerys followed upon Regal's back. First time she rode into Parley with dragon wings beneath, snow swirling about emerald hide. Inside the blasted courtyard, Tywin waited astride obsidian stallion, mail polished, face unreadable. Lannister catapults lined walls, boulders slathered pitch. Prisoners knelt in muck, charred armor of Tully colors. Tywin's gaze flicked to Viserys and back. I see the dragon's heads numbered more than 3, he said dryly. 3 is enough, Daenerys replied, voice carrying. Yet each day you multiply your own phantoms. Release these men, return plunder, withdraw to your rock, and the realm will forgive this cruelty. Tywin's smile tightened. Cruelty? I teach river lords cost of harboring wolf banners. He laid gauntlet upon sword. Withdraw? I hold by right of conquest. So did I, she said. Yet I chose peace, because fire costs fuel. He gestured high. Scorpions creaked, loaded, pitch pots ignited. I wonder how dragons fare on bolts tipped in basilisk brew. Jaime edged step. Father, no. Tywin's hand rose. Regal hissed, wings unfurling. Snow melted in air. Pitch flamed bright. Prisoners cried. Daenerys drew breath, drawing in wind. Fear, rage, the world. She shouted one word learned in cradle. Dracarys. Flame erupted, not from dragon, but from ramparts opposite where hidden Dornish archers loosed firepots onto pitch stacks. Green conflagration gushed upward, engulfing scorpions before strings loosed. Tywin wheeled horse, mouth open in fury. Regal sprang. Wings hammered gale. Snow turned steam. He vomited white-hot torrent across catapult lines. Wood burst, iron sagged. Lannister shields shattered. Viserys drew silver dagger, cut prisoners free. Battle erupted, but lasted heartbeat span. Soldiers broke, some ablaze, some drowning in snow-turned slush. Tywin rode for inner keep. Jaime spurred after, calling. Daenerys guided Regal to tower top, landing claws in molten groove. Below, Brienne's column poured through gate. Banners of dragon, wolf, sunspear rippling. She dismounted, boots sizzling on stone, and pursued Tywin into echoing vaults where melted walls dripped. He stood before hearth once fused by Balerian's breath, now crackling modest fire. Sword half-drawn, eyes shining in coal glow. You choose ruin, she said softly. Why? Because lions do not graze beside wolves and dragons, he hissed. And yet, here you stand caged. Caged. He advanced, steel ringing free. I end cages. Kingslayer betrayed oath for love of fire. My son defile cloak. The realm bends to child in charred leather. I end it tonight. He lunged. She sidestepped, cloak flowing. Regal roared outside, stone trembling. Tywin slashed again, her dagger parried, spark scattering. He was heavier, older, but relentless. She danced, letting rage drive feet faster. He feinted, blade grazing her arm. She hissed, riposte flicking across his cheek, drawing crimson line. Tywin paused, surprised by pain he thought buried in youth. "Enough," came voice behind. Jaime, sword lowered, eyes glistening. "Father, yield." Tywin's gaze shuddered. He raised sword high toward son. "Traitor blood." Jaime's sword snapped up. Two clangs, quick. Tywin pressed forward, old training shredding son's defenses. Daenerys leapt between, catching blade on Valyrian steel. Joint jarred. Jaime recovered, parried, half sobbing. Tywin's fury swelled. In clash of gold and silver, father drove son to knee. Daenerys saw love dying on floor. She flung dagger, striking Tywin's wrist guard. Metal rang, sword dropped. Jaime sprang, disarmed father, tumbled both to hearth flagstones. Flames licked, silence pounded. Tywin stared at ceiling scarred by dragons 3 generations gone. He heaved breath. "So ends House Lannister's roar." "No," Daenerys said, "but it sleeps now." She gestured. Guards entered, shackles ready. To Jaime she offered hand. He took it, shaking. Tears carved lines through soot on cheeks. Tywin rose, accepting chains with distant dignity. She looked to melted rafters. Burnt towers rebuild stronger of tempered steel. Winter settled thick. Snow mantled outer bailey of Harrenhal like shroud across giants' bones. Within kneeling courtyard, flurries danced around scaffold where edicts were read. Lord Tywin stripped of titles, exiled to Silent Sister's fortress on Dragonstone to pray among tombs he once wrote in fire. Kevin pardoned. Lannister heirs swore fealty. Jaime refused Casterly Rock, choosing to don white cloak anew, though council protested. Daenerys permitted, for Kingsguard needed man who understood breaking oaths to serve higher mercy. Viserys knelt publicly, placing sword at sister's feet. She raised him Lord Paramount of the Stepstones under oversight, hoping duty might temper restlessness. Tears blurred his vision. Riverrun opened grain stores in thanks. Dorne dispatched water wagons across snow-laden King's Road. The realm breathed again. In Red Keep's Dragon Yard, Regal stretched wings half the bailey's width. Viserion hovered above Rookery each dusk, scattering ravens grumbling. Drogon perched upon tallest tower, black crown upon city. On midwinter morn, Daenerys donned new crown. Valyrian steel forged with 3 rising dragon heads, gift from Dornish smiths, and walked alone into throne room now cleared of scaffolds. Cloth removed, iron throne cooled but still warped by her fire. She climbed steps, boots ringing through hush. She sat, edges bit leather, yet she did not flinch. Drogon glided through shattered window, landed behind, wings cape-wide. Light from snow-bright courtyard streamed, painting queen and throne in dawn gold. Outside, bells tolled, slow, measured, marking end of war, beginning of reign. Small folk gathered, faces upturned toward dragons circling. And at center of calm, Daenerys felt world pulse. Fragile, bruised, but alive. A roar built in her dragon's throats. One note carried by 3 voices, rising through broken spires, through memories of pyres and rivers of blood, through breath of every child born this winter. She closed her eyes, let that roar fill chest, and vowed never to rule by fear alone, never to hoard flame without warmth, never to lose the girl who once sang lullabies to serpents in storm-tossed hold. For kingdoms pass, and crowns tarnish, but mercy tempered by fire can forge a legacy no snow may bury. Thus began the first true spring of the Dragon Queen's realm, though snow still lay heavy on fields. Thus began the long rebuilding whose songs men would hum centuries after steel and stone had weathered away. Thus bloomed fragile peace, nurtured by dragon heat and child's heart stronger than all crowns fused together.